So hello everyone to the question and answering session of the HL7 C-CDA Rendering Tool Challenge. I am Dave Hamill, the Director of the HL7 Project Management Office, and I will be leading the presentation. We'll have some of the core project team members joining us as well. And so some of the information you have, some of the information may be repetitive from people that have attended the past webinar that we had. If you weren't able to join that one, or you didn't look at that or watch that webinar from our webpage, then some of the information may be new. So to get started here, we will just go over the agenda here. So we'll have an agenda review and some introductions, a background of the challenge and an overview of it, kind of go over the submission requirements for your tool, review the panel of judges and evaluation criteria, and then the timeline and milestones. And the last item is the main reason we are here is for you people to answer or ask questions and get some answers from the core project team members. In order to do that, obviously everybody is muted just to cut down on any clutter in the background and everything. So if you have some questions, you can raise your hand in the box. You can, in the GoToWebinar box, you can ask your question in the questions area or the chat area. I see that we have about, we'll have anywhere from like 7 to 12 people on the call today. So if it just gets to be easier to have people all unmuted, I can certainly do that, and then we won't have to go through all those boxes. So, so as I said, I am Dave Hamill. We also have Matt Ron on the webinar here, and he is from the Office of the National Coordinator. And then Calvin Beebe and Brett Marquardt hopefully will be able to join us. They are co-chairs of the HL7 Structured Documents Work Group. So as I think most of you know, the current issues, the reason we did this challenge, the ONC came forward and talked about the various items that are current issues with C-CDA, such as the by clinicians with the usability of the various C-CDA documents, difficulty in finding relevant clinical information, and the overabundance of rendered data sent to providers. And as you know, the challenge to all of you is to develop a viewer that enables the clinicians to efficiently review clinically relevant patient data on C-CDA documents. And so those 4 bullet items are really, what we're looking for in the tool that is provided. So I hope everyone is familiar with the web page that we've been hosting all the information on this challenge. In the past, if you've gone to our website, you've had to go through the banners here to find the C-CDA Rendering Tool Challenge. It's still up there, but we are in the midst of removing it from the banner, and now it will be a hot link right down here under Participate. So it's going to remain on the website throughout the challenge, so you will always be able to get to it. And so when you open it up, at this point, of course, you've all submitted your intent to participate because the deadline for that was April 30th. We are now into submitting the entries and how to go about that. You've all been assigned a GForge account with a GForge project to submit the necessary information. And so really you get down here to the how to enter area where you can find out what you need to submit into GForge here. You can review some frequently asked questions. One important thing to notice here is we have just recently added additional C-CDA test data. Just yesterday uploaded additional test data that was submitted by Calvin Beebe. So we had our initial sample data out there for a couple of months, and now we have some additional test data. So feel free to use that as well as you do your programming. So another item I wanted to review is, the judging panel. So as you all know, the tools must be submitted by the end of May, and then over June and July we will review the tools, and we have a panel of judges, and we've recently added a few more judges to that team. So right now, we had most of these names were there in the past: Calvin Beebe, Gay Dolan, Carl Dvorak, Emma Jones, and then the AMA members who are practicing physicians have been added. People like Dr. Harmon, going to have to go down here, Dr. Slack, and Dr. Resnick. So we have a broad variety of clinicians, both technical and practicing, that are going to be on the judging panel. So if we were to look at the milestones, as I mentioned, the intent to participate deadline has passed. We are now coming up to May 31st, which is the tool submission deadline. As I said, the June and July timeframe will be when the judges review the submissions, and then we're going to announce the winners to everyone, to the public, at the HL7 plenary meeting in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, August is when we will contact the winners about that they've been chosen. So, so that's the plan going forward. Now, as I said, I always include an additional information slide in these, so you know where to gather more information. But right now, it is time to turn it over to everybody on the call. If you have any questions, please raise your hand in the GoToWebinar toolbox, or type in the question in the box, or type it in the chat box. All right, so Marty has a question here. I'll unmute you, Marty, and it looks like you asked, will HL7 provide a certificate to all those challenge participants? So, I believe you emailed me this as well. I was going to talk to the core project team about what to do regarding people that have, submitted their tool and it actually, got reviewed by the judges. So right now we hadn't discussed issuing any type of certificate, but certainly it is one of those things that I think it's a good idea, so that people who have submitted something will have, some record of, hey, I participated in this, and so they can do with it what they want, whether it's on their resume or anything like that. So right now, I don't have a yes or no answer for that, but I will take that question back to the project team and we'll let you know.
Okay.
Some other questions? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Marty, I cut you off there.
Yes, I think that this is our intention is that some customers are concerned because sometimes documents are structured or following some trickies, and also some renders are also following that trickies. Yes, that some companies want to be sure that although they are not using maybe the best CDA rendering tool, they're using a tool that fulfills and is able to display a broad sample of CDA documents provided by HL7. Yes.
Okay.
So it could be so interesting for the companies participating, I think.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
All right. So we have an Istvan from Hungary. He asked, do you need a full-scale solution, or do you need a proof of concept for the implementation? Matt, I would look at you and I to be able to answer this. I think we're looking for a full-scale solution, not just proof of concept, because we want to release this tool to be used in the public domain.
Yeah, this is Matt. So that is correct. Yeah, so we would expect it to be able to be used with limited changes needed to be able to push out and for hopefully adoption.
Okay. The next question was by Dave Carlson. Will there be any public rankings below the top 2, like honorable mentions, etc.? We can take this back to the core project team and ask them. Let's see, I'm going to unmute you, David, so in case you want to expand on that question.
Just from the perspective of, I know obviously the top 2 get prizes and obviously will be announced, so I just didn't know if any further down, are they just going to come up with, oh, we think these are the top 2, or is there some criteria that they would know that this one came in 3rd, this one came in 4th, or that sort of thing?
Okay.
So I think Adam's on the phone, but
yep.
Generally we would just release the 2 winners.
Okay.
Just release that information. But I mean, since it's supposed to be public facing, there will be, I guess you can show if it's not on there, I guess you can show you what solution you created, I guess, if you do not end up.
I asked that on a previous call, I think, as far as, once the June 1st timeframe is gone, is it okay if we put it up, on our own site or whatever? And I think they were like, yeah, sure. I don't think that has changed, right? So, it's pretty much just an open source thing.
Right, right.
There.
Yep. Okay. So let's see. Mark Spohr has a few questions here. He is asking about how much more data. Current set is thin and won't show capabilities of viewer well. What is the mechanism to add more data? And can we get scoring of entries and feedback on our submissions? So let's take your first 2 questions initially. And Mark, I'm unmuting you. So how much more data? That additional data is 6,000, I want to say 6,000 documents. Matt, I know, Matt, you've been on the calls with Calvin working on that.
No, not documents. It's just 6,000 lines of code. So
okay.
It's smaller than generally the other test data that we've had.
And hopefully, you said, you asked what is the mechanism to add more data. If we are able to get more data, and we are trying to, I will send the notification out to the participants, because we are a set number of people now that are having submitted their intent to participate. So I will send it out, and I will add the link to additional data on that web page. So when I say on that web page, I always, I'm trying to get back to the top here. So you on this one with all the official rules, and then I'll just keep on adding links to additional test data. It'll be even more additional test data or something. So I will definitely communicate to everyone, because we want to provide you as much test data as possible. So does that answer those 2 questions for you, Mark?
The other part of that question is, I believe part of the judging is you are going to add some new data to it and then see how it performs with the new data. So I believe we need to have a mechanism where you can add new data to it. Is that correct or not?
Well, we're not adding.
Are you just going to be looking at the test data, or are you going to want to add more data to it And do we need to have a mechanism where you can add more data to it?
Oh, more data to the existing test data?
Well, when you're testing our viewer, our program, do you want to be able to add new records to it and view those records in our viewer?
Yeah, so I mean, you should be able to, like when we're testing, looking at your viewer, you should be able to, your viewer should be able to use basically any data, right? But this is the test data that we give you. That's what you can use. We are going to, the judges could use different data, so it looks the same, to check to make sure it looks the same as if as your current test data that you were using.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, so we would need a mechanism that you can add additional records to the viewer.
Additional records, I mean, I think it should, it should just be one patient right then, right, that you're pulling up?
Well, that's the current test data, yeah.
Yeah. But I
you want
mean,
to add
it should be able to be any data in there that would show up the same way.
Right, but the test data is just the one patient, but we're obviously going to want to be able to add additional patients to it to see how those are viewed in the viewer.
Are you asking if the tools that we make are going to need to be able to add data to the file you're looking at?
Well, I know that the tools are going to need to be add data, but I was wondering, as part of your testing, as part of your evaluation process, if you're going to be wanting to add data to it.
Can you guys clarify that? Because I thought this was purely a view tool. Do the tools need to be able to add data into the file you're looking at?
So you should be able to, so it's a rendering challenge, obviously. So it would be the viewer, but whatever data is in there needs to be like showing up the same way as if it did for, if either of you had different, your different solutions or whatever, they should all, if we used test data that was different than the test data you have, it should still show up the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think the other person who, I'm not sure who it was, it sounds like you're asking, do our tools need to be able to add new data while you're in the viewer? Is that what you're asking?
Right. If you want to test and evaluate like a different patient or a different data set to see how it handles additional fields, or see how it renders additional fields, do you want us to be able to have a mechanism within our tool where you can upload an additional patient to it?
Into the existing, I mean, you're looking at one file at a time, right? So are you saying like add a new medication into that C-CDA I'm looking at?
Yeah, or add another patient. I mean, there's more. Like the system will need to be able to look at more than one patient. I mean, right now we just have one patient, but the system will need to be able to eventually add additional patients, and you want to be able to switch between patients, of course. So have you thought, if you're going to, when you're testing, are you going to be adding additional patients to it to see how it renders additional patients?
No, we would put like maybe a different patient's test data in and test into your tool and see if it shows up the same, the way it should.
Okay, okay.
Okay. So good question, Mark. Thank you.
I do have a question kind of related to that, though.
Okay.
Just from the perspective of if the tool has features kind of beyond, rendering, which, the thing that he was suggesting, I think, would be considered beyond rendering, the ability to, on the fly, put in new data or patients into a file you're looking at. Is that outside of what's being graded? Like, that's not going to affect, how it's viewed. You're pretty much looking at just those criteria of rendering.
So, yeah, the functionality, usability, innovativeness, graphical attractiveness. So I think what you're talking about could be in the innovativeness part of the criteria.
Okay.
The tool incorporates a new method, process, product. So like, it's entirely up to you all. If you see like, oh, there's a gap there, this would be really good to have in there. At the end of the day, the test data is just so that you guys can render a C-CDA the correct way, right? So.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So I noticed Adam is not, his audio is not activated. I was trying to activate him, so I was emailing him. Adam's ONC's challenge guru, I always call him. He's executed a lot of challenges in the past, so Matt and I have relied on him a lot with some of the things with the challenge. And one of Mark's questions here is, can we get scoring of entries and feedback on our submission? And so again, the project team hasn't talked about that at all. I can see the pros and cons of that. So what I will do is I will take that back to the project team and ask them what they think, along with Adam. And any of these questions that I take back, I will post both on the website as well as let the participants know what the team came up with.
Okay, thank you.
So, Dave, I know I still have you unmuted. I think, did we answer both of your questions?
Yeah, I was just trying to clarify, I think, because it sounded like we were going recursive, and then, yeah. So I think the second question, as far as the innovation section of it, that makes sense.
Good. And Adam, I know you, looks like you got audio now. So I know you.
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So,
okay.
So I know we've mentioned your name a couple of times with items about the challenge that are more like the scoring or judging of the challenge. So I'm not going to put you on the spot to answer those, but at least you have heard the questions and the requests from the people. So when we do meet offline, we can discuss it more, unless you wanted to add anything about those items right now, either the certification of all the tools submitted, or the scoring of entries and providing feedback on the submissions.
Sure. So I think with regard to several of these questions, these are things that we probably want to talk about internally. I can state that in previous federally run challenges that we have, when it comes to scoring and feedback, we have not provided the specific scoring back, but upon request we have provided the comments from reviewers back to the submitting teams.
Okay, that's good information. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
as far as kind of participation certificates, I guess Dave, you and it's kind of up to you and the HL7 team.
Yep.
Going back a couple questions ago.
Yep. Okay. Good. All right. So, Alex just asked a question about, can I submit native-based iOS applications. Alex, I'll unmute you. If you want to expand on that, go ahead. You are now unmuted.
Hello?
Hello, we
Hello?
can hear you.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, so I got a question about that. Any objections about native-based iOS applications? Meaning anything that runs natively on the device and will be available on the Apple Store, obviously available as open source as well.
Yeah, I mean, in the few months we've been running this, I think this is the first time we've had any questions specific to, you know, iOS or an app or anything. I do know.
Yeah, I mean, it must be open source and it has to be free.
Absolutely.
It has to be
Yes.
like, so I think from our end, I don't think it necessarily matters in that sense as long as it's freely available and open source. And Adam, have you had any? Do you have anything to add to that?
I'd say that, you know, what we'll be focusing on is the open source version of what you provide. That's what we're asking for. That's what's being submitted. You know, it's certainly up to you to move forward with an iOS app separately.
Okay, perfect. Great, we're halfway done. Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alex. So I know we don't have any questions right now, but as we were answering those other questions, let me, I wanted to open up here or show you GForge and the trackers. So I logged in. What you will do is once you log into GForge, if you haven't so far, I just wanted to kind of walk through what to expect in GForge here. And you were assigned your project, which, you know, is appended with a number there. And so you go into the trackers and you keep on just drilling down to the to-dos. And then as you see the name of the 4 trackers here, this is the information that you submit within each one of those trackers. So this is while we could have had you submit a lot of things in one tracker, we felt that it was best to create the 4 items that we're looking for here and name those trackers the request of the items that you're supposed to submit within each one of them. So we have one for the name of your tool, one for the URL to the GitHub repository, one for the URL to your YouTube video, which is demonstrating the tool. And remember, the duration of the video should be 5 minutes or less. And then one to a slide presentation of a PDF containing technical specifications and other information about the tool. And that's a 7-slide maximum. So if you were to go into here, you will then be just presented with a screen here where when you can either type information in here in your follow-up, such as your URL or your name of your tool, and then down here at the bottom is where you attach the files. And so that's where you would attach your PDF in this case of the overview of the slide. So that was one thing I wanted to show everyone. And so I'm going back to, let's see, look at our questions to see if we have any additional ones. I don't think we do. So that would be it for our webinar then. I really appreciate everybody participating here. Some great questions were posed. I will take those open questions back to the team and we'll we will discuss those. And as I said, you know, always I will be able to communicate now to a smaller group of any updates we make to the web page or anything we need to communicate to the participants. So thank you everyone for attending. Adam, Matt, Lynn, thanks for joining us to help with any questions that came up and making sure I didn't misinform anyone.
Yeah, Dave, I would just say, like, if you guys have any other questions, please just reach out to Dave, and we can try to get back to you guys as soon as possible. So, and then we'll update the Q&A page. So, yeah, definitely, this isn't the only opportunity to ask questions. So please just email them to Dave.
Right. Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. You have a great day.
Thank you.